it's Monday, apparently. Well, it's not really Monday now. It's because it will be Monday when you see this, because film can change your perception of reality. Please excuse the mise-en-scène. Just a reminder that your first homework task is due tomorrow on Tuesday, and you do need to upload that onto Compass. Even though I'm in the beautiful Indonesia, I still will be checking that. Remember that homework task, we pretty much did most of it in a lesson 2 or 3 sessions ago. So please upload that, because I would like to see how you're progressing with your name describe links. Today's lesson is only 50 minutes, and if you remember, I told you previously, we're spending every 50-minute session on a key skill. So a skill is something that you'll do over and over again, and it's really important. It's not a content or a piece of knowledge you need to remember, it's a skill you need to do over and over again. Today's skill is probably one of the most important, and that is how to break down or deconstruct a question. When I did assessor training last year, this was the one piece of feedback that they gave to all students in order to get them from that, say, 80 or 90% higher, and that is how students actually broke down a question and answered that specific question and didn't just regurgitate any irrelevant information. So I'm going to talk through some basics of how to break down a question, and then you're going to spend this lesson practicing doing that. Deconstructing the question. Today we're going to be focusing on why we deconstruct or break apart questions, why do we do it, and what processes have you kind of followed before. So have a think about, particularly in English, when you've been told to deconstruct the question, what are some of the things your teachers are telling you, because some of it will be really familiar today, and I want you to be using that knowledge, because there is no one set way to do this, because every question is different. And surprise, surprise, I have not written your end of year media exam, so I don't know what the questions will be. Here is my rough suggestion of what you should do. Some things are an absolute, and when I'm looking at your SACs in particular, I'll be seeing if you're actually doing this. The first thing you need to do is read the question. So that is actually read every single word, don't skim it. I've had students before lose over 50% of their marks in, say, a 10-mark question because they didn't read something like the and or the or. After you've read the question, you need to highlight the key words. That's really important just to kind of help you understand the key ideas of the question and what it's asking you. This step 3 is really important. It needs a little bit of explanation, but in media, the questions are really open. So you need to think, okay, what do you have a choice to write about? It'll never ask you about a particular film, for example. You'll have to choose. And it'll ever say, in this scene, you get to choose the scene. And it'll also ask you about some restrictions. So maybe you have to talk about a particular code, or maybe you have to talk about a particular moment in the film. So there are some restrictions there as well. You do need to plan your response, so pick what scene, what code, what idea, what institutional context, what ideology am I choosing, and then you need to put together your relevant structure. I've got an example that I'll talk you through, a really nice basic one. Here is my question. Step 1, I'm going to do this one for you. Read the question. Describe how a code constructs a character in one of the texts studied this year. I've chosen this question because we've already done some work on this, so it should be a little bit easier. Step 2, highlight the key words. The very first thing I'm going to highlight is the verb. A verb is a doing word, and we have instructional verbs. You've probably heard of them before, things like describe, identify, analyze, explain, discuss. They are so important because they will give you a bit of a hint of what the assessor is looking for you to do. The second thing you need to highlight are the key words. So these are the things that, almost like your success criteria, you have to do. You need to acknowledge them. So I have to do a code, character, that's really important. I've also highlighted the stem or the idea of the question. Here, that is constructs. This is how you'll push yourself into the higher level of responses, and that's by answering the specific nature of the question. So this question isn't just about, hey, tell me about codes and characters. It's telling me how does a code construct or build a character. So looking for the stem is really important. Here, I'm annotating my words for you. So describe means you have to really tell in detailed words and paint a picture. So that's really important. I've now started to look at the choices and the restrictions. What do you have to cover and what do you have a choice of? I've color coded this. Let's start with the things that I have a choice with. So it's asking me in one of the narrative texts, so I get to pick a film. Am I going to do Okja or Chinatown? I get to choose the code. So am I going to do audio, mise en scène, lighting? It's up to me. I do have a restriction here. I have to talk about a character. I can't talk about a genre. I can't talk about multiple characters or a relationship or an ideology. It has to be a character. But I get to pick which one, so that's a choice. And I get to pick the scene that I'm focusing on. It's never written in questions, but you always need to base your answer in a particular scene and do a name describe link. So this is an example of how choices and restrictions can be linked. Restriction, I have to talk about how a character is built and constructed to get the 3 marks. And a restriction, I have to describe it. I can't just identify, and I shouldn't be discussing. I need to describe it. So they're the things I have to do and the things I get to choose. You can do this brainstorming in an annotation if you want, like I've done here, or you can organize it in a table like this. So I've done what part of the question, do I have a choice, do I have a restriction? And I've even started to do a bit of my brainstorming here. With my code, I've gone, maybe I'll do lighting or acting. With my idea that I'll talk about character, maybe I'll do that Midge feels trapped, or that Midge will do anything for Okja because that's her emotional goal. Now I need to plan my response. Go back and highlight your choices and make some active decisions. You should be able to tell me, what code are you talking about? What character, what film, what scene, and what's the overall idea? How does that code build character? Now I'm up to building my structured response. And we'll talk about this more later when I come back from Indonesia. I want you to think of it almost like building blocks. So what am I going to put first in my topic sentence? What am I going to do with my name describe link? Do I need to do 2 name describe links? Do I need to focus on 2 codes? Do I need to pull back my name describe link afterwards and actually discuss something in 3 or 4 sentences? So you do need to plan, what am I going to do? Particularly with questions that are, say, 6 or more responses. So that's the process that I follow. Okay, so now it's up to you. Follow that step-by-step process through these questions. I'm purposely starting them off as easier, and then will get a little bit tricky, and maybe you'll need to be a bit creative with adding multiple name describe links or really looking for the stem of that question. How is that question different to all the others? That's what the stem is. I really want you to annotate your responses and create clear plans.